Well, hello. Welcome to the first in a very long time Ask Me Anything session. The title of today's Ask Me Anything is How May I Serve You Today? The prompting for this particular live stream session and live Zoom call is from the Clubhouse days. I was sitting there with Stephanie this morning. Actually, wasn't sitting. We were out for a walk. And I told her that I really missed those days of Clubhouse where I could simply open up an app, start a room called Ask Me Anything, or it was actually titled How May I Serve You? Ask Me Anything. And people would just stop in. And that's exactly why I'm here today. There is no agenda here. I'm not actually teaching any sort of webinar, anything of that nature. I simply wanted to show up and be of any support and encouragement that I might be able to be for folks who might want to stop by the live stream. So if you happen to be browsing LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook right now, and you would love to jump into a Zoom call, ask me anything. We could chat about anything. There is no particular topic, just anything that's on your mind. Feel free to join me. And with that being said, that's pretty much all I have to say right now. And hopefully all of the live streams are operating, and we've got some folks that are, at least one person I think I just saw popping in. So we're going to see if this works here. So Lori is popping up. So give Lori just a moment. Let's bring Lori right up here. Lori, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you great. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I have never been better. It gets better every minute of the day. And I missed Clubhouse, so I figured I wanted to create something that would be like it.
I was thinking about Clubhouse when I saw this email from you. That was such an amazing time, wasn't it?
It was such an amazing time. So, Lori, what's going on in your world?
Cliff, I am flying out of Denver in 4 hours to go to England and then to go on a Scandinavian cruise. So I'm getting ready to live out the vacation of my childhood dreams.
Nice. So, a Scandinavian cruise. I don't know anything about Scandinavia, so tell me more. Why has this been a childhood dream of yours? Oh, you're muted. Did you mute yourself, unfortunate? Or hold on one second. So I've lost your audio on my end.
This is going to be bad audio, but can you hear me now? Okay.
It's still good. You're all good. Go right ahead.
So I didn't know anything about Scandinavia either. And I just knew, like, as a child, I wanted to see the castles, and I just knew I wanted to go to Europe, to that part of the world. And I've been to Europe a couple times, and it's been amazing. And this time I'm going all by myself. So I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want.
That is awesome. I love that. And how long is the cruise?
It's a 12-day cruise. So I'll be in England for a few days, and I'll be in the Netherlands for a few days, and then I'm going on to the cruise where we, like, the ship sails. While it's sailing, I'm actually going to be attending an Abraham Hicks workshop.
Now I'm jealous.
Yeah, it's an Abraham Hicks cruise.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of quiet about that because some people aren't as enthusiastic as you. But yeah, super excited.
Who cares what those people are enthusiastic about, Lori Hammond? Come on. Of course, I say that, and I've been hiding behind a mask for the last 2 to 3 years after chasing a few people off because of my interest in said topics. So.
Okay.
Yeah, but the mask is off now. I'm done hiding.
Okay, well, I will emulate you then.
Are you going to get into a hot seat? Are you going to be asking Abraham anything?
I'm gonna stand up. I figured if I'm meant to be up there, she'll call on me, and if I'm not, then I will sit and just enjoy whatever happens.
Awesome. Well, is there any way I can support or encourage you today?
Just by being here, I'm just really grateful to be here with you and the other people on the call. And it feels a little bit like the clubhouse days. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I'm gonna tell you, there's a bunch of other people, as you see on Zoom, I'm sure, that have popped in here, and I'm super delighted. I'm gonna bring somebody else up, and feel free. I think people can raise hands. Oh, actually, will you do me a favor? Will you raise your hand, since I know you know Zoom, and I just want to see what it looks like in the participants window. See if I can make it.
since
Yep.
I'm usually
Okay,
the
so Aaron
oh,
just did it, so that's great. Aaron,
okay.
thank you so much for that. And Lori, feel free to raise your hand at any point you want to jump back in, and just self mute yourself on your end. And thank you for joining us today. All right, next up we've got Aaron Zakowski. Aaron, how are you?
What's up, Cliff? How you doing?
I have never been better. It gets better. Actually, it is better right now than it has been all day, because this is a dream come true. Actually, doing a live Ask Me Anything like I used to do in Clubhouse, but being able to stream it live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, but do all the interaction via Zoom. This is a dream come true. I'm living my dream. How about you? How are you doing?
Fantastic. Doing great. I got the email that you were hosting this, so I figured I had a little bit of time, and I miss our old chats when we worked together, and figured I would jump in and say hello.
Well, I'm glad that you did. And if my last recollection is, I think you sent me some WhatsApp message saying that
2
you're
weeks ago.
looking to do some stuff in the world of coaching, and you were reading The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay Stingler or whatever.
Yeah, I just listened to the audiobook of The Coaching Habit. I'm also reading Prosperous Coach, which you recommended to me a year or two ago, and I guess maybe at the time it was a thing because I wasn't coaching, but in the last few months, I've kind of been stimulating myself to think, I'm not happy with the career that I've been doing in marketing for the last, decade and a half. And what else would I really like to be doing? And therapy and coaching came to mind. And, the great experience I've had working with you as a coach and another coach, which have really just, helped change my life and help me get through some very challenging years, would be something that I think about wanting to pass on to other people. And, people keep telling me that I would be good at it. So I'm at the stage now where I've been learning about coaching very deeply for the past, couple of weeks or maybe a month, and trying to get the courage, I guess, to just jump in and start coaching some people, even though I don't quite know what the process of coaching is, how to run a coaching call, all of that. But I know I can get good at it. I just, trying to figure out my framework for how to get started. But I
Excellent.
know that the confidence comes from action.
Yes. Would you like some feedback or thoughts on that?
I'd love it.
Sweet. The first thought that comes to my mind is what is the setup of an actual coaching call? And I think there is no one right way to do it. I think the most important thing to know is what is the intention of you as the coach, and also what's the thought and intention of the person who's being coached. I think it's important to make sure that the container of a coaching conversation, that somebody knows that they're coming into a coaching conversation. The one thing I found that I would want to avoid is having somebody reach out to me for some encouragement or some advice or something like that, and then all of a sudden, I end up coaching them for an entire hour or such and such, when in reality they weren't asking for coaching. They just wanted to kind of just chat about something, get some feedback, and stuff like that, which may sound a lot like coaching, but there's something about setting aside the actual session for coaching. Let me go in here real quickly and do some muting on some of these channels. And there we go. All right. So so the important thing for me, I think, is when I'm inviting somebody to a session, I want them to know that I'm inviting them to be coached by me. And that I think that's, any questions about that?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
And so do you define what coaching means in your context to them when you do that?
Not so much. It's usually in context of the conversation when the invitation happens. So let me give you a real example of what I mean by this. So I might be having a conversation with an exchange with folks, with somebody on direct message on LinkedIn. and they're like, "Hey, Cliff, I really appreciated what you shared in your most recent podcast episode, and I have a question about that." And then they ask me a question, and then I when I'm giving them an answer, I ask them some questions that kind of let me know, is there something more here that needs to happen that's deeper than the surface level conversation we're having right now. And then all of a sudden, every now and then, somebody will reveal something. It's like, oh, wow, okay, that's a big deal. And this is the layer of conversation that needs to happen more in a coaching session than a back and forth via DM. And if I feel resonance with that person, then what I will do is say, "Hey, Aaron, I really appreciate you opening up and sharing your experience with that. I have a lot of experience over the years of talking people through this scenario. I know I've been through it myself. It may have been 15 years ago, but I remember what that's like. And I've worked with several other people who are dealing with exactly what you're facing right there. And if you're interested, I would be honored to give you a gift of a complimentary 90-minute one-on-one coaching experience with me. This would be my gift to you, no strings attached, no expectation, no obligation. You'll ever become a paid client. But I would love to go deep into this scenario and just be available to help you through what it is that you've just revealed." You were actually, if you go back to you and I interacting, I think
We started our relationship with that type of a scenario.
Exactly. And you came through a referral. I think, was it Deacon Bradley,
Yep.
I think, that
Yep.
recommended or referred you to me. But even then, when he referred you to me, I'm like, "Hey, tell me a little bit more. Tell me about what's going on." And then I made that invitation. I might not be so quick to jump straight into an invitation to coaching, but at least when I am coaching, the important premise here is to let them know that the purpose of this call is we're not getting on for a networking call. We're not chit-chatting. This is a coaching session. And then, so the next thing I do, Aaron, and you'll recall this, you could go back to the very first complimentary coaching session you and I had. And this isn't required. I'm just giving you things that have worked for me in setting up and how I orchestrate a coaching session. But when I do a first coaching session with someone, there are 5 things I go over, and I'm going to try to remember them all off the top of my head. Is it 5 or 4? I'm not sure. Anyway, here's the first one. Number 1, I say, "Hey, I want to make sure that you understand that this session here today is my gift to you. It's complimentary. There is no expectation, no obligation you'll ever become a paid client. This is my gift to you. Are you sure you understand that?" And the person says, "Sure. Thank you so much." Wonderful. The next thing I ask is, are you coming to this session from a 100% distraction-free environment where you and I can speak about any topic without any concern for anyone else overhearing our conversation? By the way, that is a stipulation that I made with them before they actually scheduled the call. So when I send the invitation, I also ask them, if you're willing to commit to being in an environment that's distraction-free, specifically like that, if you're willing to come to the call with a high bandwidth, reliable internet connection that allows us to have audio and video via a Zoom call. Those are the real 2. Actually, there's a third stipulation. The third one is, will you choose a date and time that you will protect and prioritize in your schedule so that you won't have to schedule or cancel last minute? So those are the 3 qualifications I make during an invitation. But so the second question is, are you in a distraction-free environment? Just a heads up, my own personal experience is occasionally somebody will say, "Cliff, I remember agreeing to that, but my wife had to run out. And so my kids they're really great. They're sitting down on the floor. They're playing. You won't hear a peep from them." I cancel the session immediately and ask them if they want to reschedule, because I'm like, I want to have a deep, meaningful conversation, and I want to be able to have you be able to say things that you wouldn't say with your kids in the room. So that's just a thing that I do. None of this is prescriptive of what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. Are you aware that this is free, distraction free? The third one is I say, I want you to know that this is being recorded. There are several different note takers here. I am recording this conversation. The conversation is private and confidential between the 2 of us. I will be sharing a link to the recording of the call with you, as well as a transcript. but just in case you are browsing social media, you see me live coaching somebody, like hello, right here, right now. Or if you hear me coaching somebody in a podcast episode, just know this. You don't have to worry, oh my gosh, did Cliff put my coaching conversation in a podcast or in a live stream? The answer is no. Those people signed up for something completely different than this. So that's the third item, is I let them know this is being recorded, but it is confidential. And then the fourth item, I let them know that I am taking notes and that I may not be making a lot of eye contact because I'm usually writing lots of things. And then the final item that I asked them, may I have permission to be your coach in this session? And before I let them answer, I say, what I mean by that is, can I ask you questions and or say things to you that will challenge how you think at the deepest level? So I think that was 5 things that I go over at the very beginning of a first coaching experience. Now, I don't do all of those in subsequent meetings, but I do cover all of those at the beginning. That's just what I do personally. And do you have any questions about any of those things?
No, that all makes a lot of sense. I recall to some extent those conversations being spoken in our calls or the emails that you sent me. One of the things I guess I think about with getting started is, there's definitely continuing to ask questions and going deeper in some of the things that I've learned more. I have a sense, one of the things I remember from coaching with you that I was always very impressed by and I think helped me grow a lot was the different activities and homework you used to give me, journaling exercises, different things like that. And I felt like there's an element of coaching where you're listening, you're reading between the lines, you're helping them understand, saying back to them the things they said so they can understand in a deeper way. But there's also certain, frameworks or exercises that you're bringing to the table also in a more intentional way. And those are the things I feel like I don't have at my fingertips yet. And I probably just need to develop them over time. But there's one thing to talk and listen. There's another thing to be able to really help push them forward and other things.
So there are a couple of things. First thing to note for me personally is I do not coach people through frameworks. Like, let me take you through and take you from here to here. And I've got a preset plan on how, all of the exercises you're going to go through to get from here to here. Now, I've done that in the past. Like when I was doing technical coaching for podcasting A to Z, I had a framework. I had a path that you needed to be on. And we're not going to move to this next thing until you've achieved these milestones. And my coaching that I do and what I did with you, there was no such framework for that. So the framework what I do, I simply am there to help you break free from whatever currently is holding you back in this moment. So this goes back again to the whole kind of feedback on how do you structure a coaching session. So this is again just my illustration of how I coach, structure a coaching session. So each session for me is independent of its own. When I'm thinking about a coaching session, for example, you signed up, you had prepaid for 1 full year to work with me, and we had 12 90-minute one-on-one sessions, once a month for 90 minutes. When I'm thinking about today's schedule call, let's just say I'm preparing for our session this month, I'm not looking to see how many more sessions do we have in the future to get you to a space. Matter of fact, it doesn't matter to me if this is the only session we have or if you've got 13 more sessions. That none of that matters to me. Today's session is all that really counts. And so what I'm doing at the beginning of that session, I'm going to ask one question only. It's going to ask one question at the beginning. And it will be something along the lines of, what is it that you and I need to talk about today to make this a conversation you'll never forget for the rest of your life? Or there will be a variation. What's the biggest thing? What's the number one challenge that's been keeping you up at night? Or what's the one thing that that's been occupying all of your mental capacity? Or I'll ask any number of questions about like that. And another way that I will answer this question or ask this question is and you'll probably recall this one. Aaron, hey, we've got 90 minutes together once again today. I'm super excited about this. I need to figure out what the destination is. What's the top 1, 2, or 3 things you most need to walk away from this call today for this to be a success? And so whatever you say, I'm going to then write all of that down. And I sat down and it's like, okay, so you've given me three things and I'm evaluating. Okay, those three things, we got 90 minutes and I'll say, you know what? I'm not sure if we'll get to all three of these, but if we only got to one, what's the one that we need to start with? And we just start from there. And once I've actually gone through and had this conversation with you, this intuitive back and forth of what's going on in your world, what are you trying to get, what's holding you back, what do you feel is in the way, listening to that language, asking clarifying questions, basically just helping you see things from a perspective that you're not looking at yourself because you're inside the bottle. And it's real easy for anyone in your life to see your situation from a different perspective than what you're seeing it. And that's what I'm doing as a coach, is I'm literally just helping you see things outside from a different perspective. And so usually it's through getting outside of your own focused perspective that allows you to get clarity and come to some realizations or insights around that particular item that you brought up. And I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds great. Okay, we've got 42 more minutes left. We've got two more topics that you mentioned. Which of these do you want to go into next? And we just go through and sometimes we just talk about one thing. Sometimes we can get through all of that other stuff. But that's the whole structure of a coaching session for me, is I really genuinely want to know, how can I most serve you today? Where are you right now? What's most on your mind? What conversation do we need to have? Is there anything you feel that's missing? Let's chat about that. Now, the last thing that I want to share in this monologue is these tools, these frameworks, these exercises, these assignments. Those I still to this day have never taken a coaching certification class or anything like that. But what I have done is I've invested lots of time and lots of money into my own personal and professional development. So every single one of those exercises, every single one of those tools, they have come through one of maybe 50 or 60 different major investments I've made in my own personal growth, personally, professionally, and or spiritually. And I've got, you can see just right there, there's journals there, handwritten journals, and also somewhere else back here somewhere. Actually, it's there. I've got thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of handwritten journaled notes from books, courses, and other programs that I've gone through where I've done the deepest work on myself. And so when you, being the person I was coaching in our relationship, when you would bring something up and I'm like, you'll recognize I almost always had some sort of story that I've personally experienced. And I shared how that showed up for me. And then I shared with you a tool or an exercise that helped me through that. And so I just want you to know, it wasn't some coaching program that taught me all of those things. It's 15 years of my own growth and all that other stuff. Now, when I say that, Aaron, I know that you're at the beginning of your interest in a coaching journey. I just want you to know that you're not starting over or starting from ground zero. You've been in a growth journey throughout your life. Everything you ever learned through our time together, you could share all of those exercises, all of those frameworks. But it's not just that. You've been through so many other life experiences. You've been through so many other things, and you have way more to offer to people than you could possibly imagine. So my biggest thing is just show up, not looking to impress anyone, but only there to listen, to hear what's going on, ask questions, help them see things from a different perspective, and have no other outcome other than your desire to be of service. That's how you structure a coaching session.
Thank you for that.
Is that helpful?
Very helpful.
Sweet. What, if any, insights came to you from all of that monologue that I gave you?
I think the having exercises at my fingertips, to be able to say to people and feeling like I need to teach them something after I've heard everything they have to say has been holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
I know how to listen, I know how to ask questions, but I think in my mind, I play a story that, but people are going to want me to hear everything they have to say and then tell them the answers, when in reality, I guess I know most people have the answers inside of them. They just need someone to help them see it. But on the exercise thing, just, have a few ideas, kind of maybe think back to the things I've learned from you, from other coaches, from other life experiences, maybe, organize my thoughts around those a little bit, and just, be prepared to trust my instincts and my gut as I get on calls with people.
When I was getting ready to stop doing podcast consulting and wanting to do coaching as my main thing, I was tempted to look into some of those certification programs that would teach me how to be a coach. One of the things that I heard a lot was the fact that if you are not asking questions, but instead, if you are giving advice, you're not actually coaching. And they would say things like, you want to help people find the question or the answer to the question within themselves. And I think you and I chatted about this at one point because we were talking about you doing a group coaching program. And what I had suggested was this concept that the answer to the questions are almost always, and so far I've found that I can't think of any time where it's not, where the answer is within themselves. And it's the real power is asking questions that get to the deeper issues underneath what they're presenting. When I first heard of that, I'm like, no, people come to me because I have lots of experience. I've done the thing they want to do. They want to tell me what's going on, where they're stuck, and want me to give them the next step. Kind of exactly what you're just saying. Here's the interesting thing. I would imagine something that you could do in preparation for you to prepare is go back and look at some of our coaching sessions where you came to the call presenting an issue, expecting me to have an answer, and where no answer was given, but only questions were asked. It's interesting how many times that actually happened. The other thing that I will share with you is I learned this from Rich Litvin. Always be willing to mess up, get it wrong, screw it all up, to be wrong. If there's nothing that's going to keep you from moving forward in coaching than this idea that I have to have the answers, or I have to be right, or I can't get it wrong. Some of the best coaching that I've had with people is they'll share with me, and I'm like, man, I'm searching inside, and I'm like, man, I've got nothing for this. I don't know what to say. And when that happens, I'd say something like this: Aaron, man, I hear that, and I don't even know what to say about that. I have no advice. I have no, man, that sounds challenging. And I wish I had some sort of magic wand or a tool to give you or something like that. And you know what? After this call, I might actually do some research and see if I can't find somebody who has some solutions to what you're facing right now. But I just empathize with you, and I wish I had more for you. And maybe there would be a question and stuff like that, but I'm not going to pretend to have the answers that I don't have. And one of the best things you can do is just be authentic about it. And if your heart is genuinely into coaching because you truly desire to serve someone, having the answer in the moment or having a tool that you can give them in the moment, that's not essential. I mean, it might be essential for our self-consciousness, our ego, if you will, but it's not important for the client. Imagine the number of times you and I were in a coaching session. If you would have said, hey, Cliff, I really am hoping that you have a step-by-step formula for how to achieve this outcome. And if you were to come to me and say, Cliff, this is what I need, and I'm hoping with all the people you've worked with, who all your peers are and what you've done, hopefully you just have this at the ready that you can share with me. And if I said to you, I have no such thing. I've heard of people who've done things like that, but I don't know what their formulas are. But here's what I will do, Aaron. After I get off the call, I have some other things going on today, and I have some things scheduled tomorrow. But by the end of this week, I'm going to do some research, and I will get with you and see if I can't find something for you. You would be just as delighted with that then, and getting a real valuable response by the end of the week than me instantly having something to impress you, if that in fact is the only thing I have to offer. Is that helpful as well?
I think so. I mean, I guess my only hesitation with it is, I guess, feeling if I'm in a paid coaching situation with someone and they've paid me to be able to help them and become and say, I don't know how to help you with that problem. Well, to some extent, that's what they paid me to be able to do, even if it's continuing it through the path of questioning and discussing where I might not know the answer, but helping them to find that answer within themselves. And I know sometimes it's just not there.
It depends on
But
what they're paying you to do. Like, for example, if you're paying somebody, how to do a technical thing and you're
mhm,
supposed to be the expert, then yes, what you're saying there is
yeah,
is accurate. I could see some hesitation for showing up and not having the right answers for those people. But even then, I think that you can't be no I don't know anybody who's an expert who knows everything about any particular niche or whatever. There's always a lot of unknown. So anybody who hires you to teach them anything and expects you to have all of the answers, that I think I don't really think that's there. And I think did you coach with me for more than 1 year? Did we not go for a little bit extra? Didn't we do like 6 extra months or something like that?
yeah, we did I had 2 free sessions that you gifted me and then a year.
Yeah, okay. But all I can think of is the fact that check you out. You're sitting here hanging out with me on live Zoom, streaming out to all these things, hanging out with these other people after a year of coaching with me. And I never prepared for a single coaching conversation with you. I just showed up to serve you based upon who I am, what I do have to offer, and an intuitive guidance. And the other thing I will say, and I know you and I have chatted about this. I happen to believe that you and I are not in a one-on-one conversation. I happen to believe that the voice of God speaks to and through me, and so oftentimes I have this ally on my side that says, ask this question, ask this. And sometimes, Aaron, I don't know if this ever happened in the year that you and I coached together, but this happens to me all the time where somebody will say something and then all of a sudden I will start speaking a phrase and it's just coming out and it's flowing. Like, you would think that I have said this rehearsed statement a million times. It flows off my tongue and they'll say, "Oh my gosh, that changes everything. Wow, what did you just say?" And I'm like, "I have no idea. I have to go get the transcript." Because they weren't my words. So another thing that comes up for me in the way that I do coaching, I call it intuitive coaching, is it's not just me. It's not only my experience. It's not only my notes. It's not only my resources. There's in my side, I very much feel there's a spiritual aspect of having access to things beyond myself as well. So hopefully some of that is helpful for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Cool. Anything else?
Thank you. No, I think that's great. Thank you.
Aaron, it is always a pleasure, my friend. It's
For me
such
as
a
well.
delight. I'm so thrilled that you joined today, and feel free to hang out as long as you desire.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Let's see here. We're going to move on and let's move this. I'm still learning Ecamm software, so bear with me here. There we go. All right. Next up, we're going to go to Clay Lamb. So let's pull Clay up here. Clay, it has been too long, my friend. How are you? I got you muted, so let's see if you can unmute there. Do I have to do? Let's do this. Let me hit ask to unmute.
How's that?
There you are. Okay, go right ahead.
Bingo.
Clay, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Cliff. Doing really well.
So good to see you. Have you been out riding
Quite a
your
few
bike
years.
at all?
Yes, I have.
Have you? I have not.
I've done a little cycling. I do more rebounding than anything.
Yeah?
I love that thing.
Yeah.
I
How's the
jump
knees?
on it and go down. 2 artificial replaced knees, and I go like crazy, and I have 2 spinning bikes.
That's awesome.
I love them. They keep me young.
What's
One day I'll catch up with you with youth.
one day you'll get up what?
As young as you.
Oh, I don't
I
know
got to go
about
back.
that. How can I be of any support or encouragement to you today?
Well, I just happened to bump into your podcast last night on their phone, and I thought, doggone. Then my daughter said, "Do you know Cliff's got something going on today?" I went, "No, but I think it's divine intervention. I'll just jump on and see what's going on." I retired about when I was 62. I finally retired when I was 73. I'm 75 today, so this week, and I'm still in the business. I made myself a couple promises, Cliff.
Okay.
I wouldn't leave my interest. I wouldn't leave my industry. I would not take every day. I'd take a Monday and a Friday off. I would not get into do anything in my office till after 9 o'clock and be done by 3. Very controlling parameters. And I actually started mixed groups about 25 years ago, which are mastermind information exchange in my industry, Cliff. Worked out real well. As I was opening up some other businesses, I gave that to another gal and she took to another level higher. But then I guess about a year ago, I decided to take mastermind groups for myself in my industry online. So I do online mixed groups. That's what I've been doing. But I don't think I'm doing a very good job of it.
Okay. So let me make sure I hear what you're saying. So you've retired and yet you're still doing some work in the industry. You've put some parameters. You make sure you got 4-day weekends all the time and you got very nice hours on the remainder part of the week. And it sounds to me like you're focused primarily on hosting some mastermind groups for people in your industry, which is in the service industry, right?
Chimneys and fireplace business. I've been in it for
Fireplace.
45 years.
Great. Okay. So you're saying I'm hosting mastermind environments, but I don't feel like I'm doing very good at it. So tell me, do you want some feedback on how to improve your mastermind facilitation?
Yes, but let me also tell you that right now I have 17 clients. I want to go to 40. I want 10 people in 4 different groups that I can manage and still have my freedom to do what I want and still present a package to help them. And it really was working well, all right, but I still think I can amp up the quality level.
Okay. So give me 1 second. I want to fix my thing here. So we had Lori, we had Aaron, and now we've got Clay. Okay, so you have how many groups now?
17. I have 17 clients. But I just want 40. I want 40 total. 4 groups of 10.
17 clients. You want 42.
I want 40.
You want 40.
I want 40 clients.
Okay.
In each group, I want 10 clients in each group.
So of the 17, how many groups do you have that 17 people are in? So you have 2 groups.
2. So I'm limiting to that right now. I'm building it slowly.
Okay. Now, before we talk about growing the number of people in your groups, let's talk about the fact that you had stated earlier, I don't feel like I'm doing a very good job at facilitating these groups. At least that's what I heard. Did I hear that correctly? And if so, what does that mean?
To me, I think I can bring a better quality product to them. I've seen a lot of things you've said today that I use already, but that doesn't mean I can't learn from the master.
Oh. Well, I appreciate that. So let me ask you this. When you say that the groups could be improved, what's the format look like now? So let's just say, do you have one group? What's the largest group you have right now?
8 people. 8 people in a group.
So 8 people. And you meet how frequently?
Once a month for 90 minutes.
Once a
but
month.
I stay in communication with them all month long through emails, text, or phone call, helping them run their business.
Okay. That sounds to me a lot more like a group coaching program than a mastermind group.
I wouldn't argue with you because I don't know your real definition of what I've heard your definition, but a mastermind group to me always is a combination of brains thinking on the same path, helping each other solve problems within the group, and asking probing questions to come to a solution, which everybody agrees that might be the right path for that individual to take.
Okay.
Could be finances, employees, customer problems, products.
Yeah, and I think all of that it does. By the way, those items that you just mentioned don't all have to be a part of a mastermind group, but yes, they are a part of what I consider to be a mastermind group. Where I'm coming from, the distinction that I make between a group coaching program and a mastermind group. So one is you are the coach of the group. The other one is you're the facilitator of this environment. And when I hear there are 8 people in the group that meet together only one time per month for 90 minutes, and then the rest of the month you are directly coaching them, because in those in the remainder of the month you said I'm constantly in contact with them. That to me sounds like you're constantly responsible for delivering all of that value in between those monthly calls. Or are you saying that there's a lot more going on with the group supporting each other during the rest of the month?
That's true. Very much so.
Which one?
A lot of engagements. The last one you referenced is there's a lot of intercommunications, emails, texts. They might identify a problem they've had with like an OSHA problem or something wrong with an individual. They've got a ranting employee. They want to get some insights about it.
Okay. And
More inside.
how frequently do those questions get posted and you're not needed to answer?
I'm always the last one to answer.
Okay.
I just discipline myself because I'm a firm believer in what you said something. I believe that a lot of answers are answered by the individual when they hold the mirror up. They answer that person in the mirror. It works extremely well for me.
Okay.
And I let them know. I want them to know this is your idea. I just brought it out.
Okay, so what I'm hearing then is your mastermind group, while it only has one 90-minute session per month, most of the interaction for the group between each of the members happens in some sort of community discussion communication app of choice. And
Most of it's online.
And you're committed to always being the last one to answer, and oftentimes find that that they've found the solution that they were seeking.
I would agree with that.
Excellent. So when you say, I'm not sure that I'm that great at it, what do you feel might be missing, or where do you feel like it could be improved?
Constant barrage of input from outside people like yourself and other ones out there. I listen to some other ideas and I test them. I tell people what I feel, what we can do to help them in a situation. More probing questions, Cliff. How can I help you probe through that answer to get that answer?
So when you're saying that the feeling of I could be doing this better is coming from listening to a lot of other experts who are out there facilitating masterminds and feeling like they're doing something that I'm not yet doing and that you need to implement?
Well, I've been pretty successful over the years of facilitating and doing that. And when somebody will call me, they've got a problem. I don't care, some serious problems. I had one guy lose a guy, get killed, and I had one guy getting one impaled off of a ladder. Just really, really difficult. What do you do? How do you handle this? I have a frequency. I have a specific way. I help tell them about what to do and how to deal with OSHA from my viewpoint. I don't offer legal advice, but I tell them they need to get their attorney. And this is very serious. Anything you say can and will be used against you in most cases. I mean that. And I'm very cautious on that. But I try to bring them down, try to anchor them more than anything.
Okay.
But a lot of it's how do you handle an irate employee? What do you do about content, building content? As you know, I've built a lot of content in the past. They try to think, what can I do for my website? Come on, stuff like that, Chris. And I think there's always a better way to do it. I don't think you'll ever reach your zenith of your abilities, your performance. I think it can always be a touch better.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with the fact that there's always things that could be improved upon. So it doesn't sound to me like you're feeling like there's anything terribly wrong with your mastermind group experiences, that there's any value that's missing.
Mm-hmm. There's always I think.
So how long have you been hosting these two groups?
Since about 15 months, 18 months, 17 months right now. 17 months right now.
And when somebody signs up, what's the minimum commitment that they need to agree to participate?
My feeling is they can leave tomorrow. I want them not to pay me unless they're satisfied with it. Okay. If I can't provide a good product to answer them, and if they want to talk to me afterwards, doors open to me.
Okay.
It's more minutes to work in.
So basically what I'm hearing is you've been doing these groups for about 15 months and nobody's on an annual contract. They're going month to month and paying as they go. As long as they're satisfied, they stay in. So how long does the average person stay in the group?
I've only had 2 drop out in 15 months.
Okay. Well,
Both of them were another industry with HVAC contracting and picked up another mastermind group.
okay. So it sounds to me like there's nothing necessarily wrong as far as any tips to improve. Is there any particular area that you would like me to give you feedback on?
I always ask the people the question, how could I help you better on this? And I'll get some interesting conversations. We put people on a hot seat, and I normally call them the day afterwards. How did it feel? What could I have done better to help you? Probe questions. What was the best takeaway? Things like that.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to just close the doors all over, because it's not. It just really opened up the door in the relationship to me.
Yeah. So the way that I've done mastermind groups, and there is no just one right way, obviously, but I had hosted groups that would meet for 90 minutes each week. One person would be in the hot seat, and that person is able then to present what it is that they're facing, whatever challenge, or if they're looking for feedback on a new product idea, they're looking for advice on how to market something, whatever the topic is for that individual. Then that person then during the, let's just say 75, 80 minutes of their hot seat, gets the feedback of everyone else in this group.
Correct.
And then the next week, another person's in the hot seat. So if there are 8 people in the group, then each person's going to be in the hot seat every 8 weeks, or essentially every 2 months. Now, the thing is that with that, some people might ask the question, why would somebody pay to be in a group where they're only in the hot seat to get that kind of feedback every 2 months? And the one thing I would say is that with all of us being in the same industry, for me, it was online business. Everybody who has things going on, whether it's like, hey, I'm thinking about publishing a book, or hey, I'm, want to create a podcast series, or I want to do more stuff on YouTube, or that I want to actually start an email newsletter sequence. How do I go about this? What are the best principles? The things that everyone brings up in their hot seats is usually beneficial, the overall discussion, to everyone else in the group. And so having that affinity is very worthwhile. But as far as the actual value of the group, I think it's up to you to determine how much you personally need to be involved in that process. But for me, I saw myself as being the facilitator. Here's what I offer. I curate who's in the group. I make sure that these people are legit business people who absolutely have a product or service that serves people. They care about people. They're self-starters, self-motivated people. These are individuals who have a lot of personal and professional development under the hood. These are people who are very serious about what they do. I make sure to filter for all of that. In doing all of the filtering, that's a majority of the value that I bring to the table, is the people who are in this group who are the right people to hear what you're facing when you're in a hot seat, to get you the right feedback and mirror the right questions to you and things like that. So if there's anything that I've ever done that has exponentially continued to improve the quality of what I offer as a facilitator of a mastermind, it would be the upping my standard and the filtering that I do of who's actually invited to be a participant in the group. So much so that recently, the most recent 3 people who ever applied for the Next Level Mastermind, they weren't qualified. And one of them was a millionaire. He's a multimillionaire, but the energy that this person brought to the table, just, I knew the rest of the group, and this person's, I mean, not that I don't have anything wrong. Personally, I have nothing against people who use foul language or anything like that whatsoever. But this person was dropping the F-bomb like every third sentence. And it's just like that. It wouldn't vibe with the rest of the group. And I'm like, I don't think this is a good fit. And so for me, it's just knowing what the energy of the group is, what's going to be the most harmony among them, and facilitating that. For me, it's not so much of, oh my gosh, if I hope that you got what you needed, or whatever the case may be. I think just the environment itself creates that. The most exciting thing for me, Clay, was the fact that there were a number of people in my mastermind group who are really heavily interested in like fully automating their business in AI. Now, I'm a huge fan of AI. I use AI every day, but not to the level that these people were interested in it. I mean, they were automating everything, but they started to have somebody would bring it up in their hot seat. Oh my gosh, I found this service. I'm using this service and I created this thing. And I'm just wondering, has anybody else seen this? And all of a sudden, some other people in the group were interested in that. And so I'm not involved in that conversation at all, but outside of our weekly meetings, they're actually having their own meetings.
Exactly.
And all of that, if you think about every single insight, every valuable takeaway from their meetings with other members within that group, even though I am not facilitating those one-off meetings outside, I'm not even aware of them until after the fact, in many cases, but I am still the one who's responsible for all of the value that came out of it, or at least for because had it not been for my mastermind group and forming the environment for those relationships to form, those things wouldn't have happened. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
So that's
you're the catalyst of it.
Yeah. So for me, it's I didn't feel like I really needed to do a lot of like, let me reach out to this person the day after their hot seat, or did you get everything you needed and stuff like that. It was more along the lines of choosing the people that said, hey, if at any point you have any questions or any concerns about your experience in this mastermind group, I hope that you would reach out and let me know. And I kind of just took a little bit more of that approach. So based upon what you've got going on, Clay, I don't think there's a whole lot that I would give you as far as advice on how to improve what you've got going on. You've got only 2 people who have dropped out after 15 months. I think that's amazing. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the biggest obstacle for you to fill out the second group and launch the third and the fourth and have it filled by the end of the year?
Just me.
All right.
Just me. I think the market's there. I've done an inventory on how many people are in my industry and in fireplaces and masonry and stove stores. So those are my 3 channels that I can pull or harvest talent from. Those are the 3 that I'm working with right now. They're internally already. I think I'm being real cautious as I walk through this. I don't know if I mentioned to you, Cliff, but I actually started this in person. Mm-hmm. I did this for years, traveling around the country, but I'm going online. I really like this a lot better for my stage in life right now. I just really enjoyed it. I think I have a lot to offer, but the thing is what can I help them to grow their own business? I want them to do that. And it's more just help them get the wind to pick them up and move them forward.
Yeah.
If I'm answering your question, I think there's a lot I can do. I want to make sure that I've got every ounce of opportunity. And I probably have more time to listen to a podcast and do the research than they do because their day-to-day involvement in their business and family. I have a lot more freedom.
Well, and again, I think you're dabbling into the field of, I want to go above and beyond the facilitator of this mastermind, and I want to be a mentor is what I'm hearing. I want to be a mentor to these people. And you're adding that on as a desired benefit above and beyond the environment of the mastermind that you've created. That's what I'm hearing.
I would agree with that. If I don't have the answer, I'll know where to get it within my industry.
Oh, I absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's great. The one thing I would encourage you to do is just to get out there and market this. Start talking about the stories. After 15 months, with all these people and all the things they've gone through, I think you should just be out there publishing in social media posts and email newsletters and every place you can. Tell case stories about people's lives that are being changed. Get their permission to share what you can, and if you don't have their permission, share anonymously their stories of what's taken place in these meetings.
Just so you know, Cliff, I still have Ask the Chimney Sweep, the podcast that you helped me develop.
Yeah.
And I still have a lot of YouTube. I have 170 videos I produced, but I've re-energized that whole podcast to bring on the talent that I've discovered in the mixed groups and share it with the world. That's the best place for me to build into it, I think. I don't want to get watered down and be at every place. I want a specific market I'm looking for.
Let me ask you this, Clay, before we move on to the next person. Have you received any insights from our interaction here? Anything that's come to you?
Cliff, I always get insights from you. I always have.
Well,
You know,
I'm interested in hearing what, if any, you're going to carry away from this conversation. You don't have to have any, but I'm curious if there's one thing that at least that stands out to you.
this open conversation helps me just to brainstorm. I take notes, a lot of notes, and I'll revisit these. I'll probably listen to this and say, what did I learn? And I do. I always listen. I listened to Aaron's situation. I thought it was pretty interesting. And that young lady that was here, just listen to people's thinking, what it is.
Yeah.
First, I got to feel, do they feel my group or am I in their thinking? And it worked out real well. Just a few things you told me already.
Yeah. That's
They're in
awesome.
business.
Well, I wish you great success in reaching your 40 members in your 4 groups. And if you find yourself getting stuck and you need some advice, and feel free to reach out anytime. And of course, I may be doing several more of these Ask Me Anythings from time to time, little pop-up sessions. So always a pleasure.
You don't mind going. I just like listen and learn from you.
Absolutely. And stay online as long as you like.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. All right. So there we go. That was Clay Lamb. And let's see here. Who are we going to bring up next? Raise your hand if you'd like to come up next in the Zoom platform. Just go ahead and put that. By the way, if you're watching live on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, just go over to cliffravenscraft.com/join. That's cliffravenscraft.com/join, and you can join live. I don't see anybody raising their hand here, so I'm here to be of support and encouragement. You can ask me anything. There is no specific topic. It could be about anything. I am not here to I'm not here to pitch anything. There's nothing going on here. It's just I'm here to serve. So, all right, we've got who we got here? Jonathan. So let me see if I can find Jonathan here in my thing. All right, so here's Jonathan. And let's see, Jonathan, if you want to unmute yourself. There you go. And hello, how are you?
Good, Cliff. How are you doing?
I am doing absolutely amazing. I'm living inside of my seat of bliss. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It was refreshing just to get. I got your email. I'm one of your podcasting A to Z long ago students, and that training was transformational in what I've been able to start and do with some things online, and just it brought me to the sound quality that I wanted to have for several things. I'm an architect, and I was doing some training, and I didn't feel like the audio represented the professionalism I wanted to bring. So just being able to do that was definitely a blessing, and my YouTube channel exploded, and
nice.
There were some things there, Cliff. So, but I'll say today I just kind of felt led to join the link, and I knew that I'm kind of doing some reflecting. It's like 4 years ago today, my world changed with my very involved father passing. And so I kind of take this day each year to, if you're not doing something, if you want to have a different result, or you want to do, you have to take, I don't know the quote verbatim right now, but if you want to do something you haven't done, you have to do exactly that. You have to change your routine. You have to change something. And that was, my father used to always say that. So I'm kind of at a point where I'd like to, it's there's just a lot to process. So it has been nice to kind of even be on mute and listen into each one that's kind of spent some time. And I know they've done, like I said, other programs with you, and it sounds like a lot of other coaching sessions. And I'm just at a place where I know that at the back of my mind, I have a Warren Buffett quote of, if you're only making money with the hours, per hour, if you're only being paid per hour, if you don't make money while you're asleep, you're going to work until you die. If you don't find a means of income or something, sell a product or service, And that was kind of the start of my Smarter Architect brand, was to it's my YouTube brand aside from my business that I started in 2011. So I was just kind of reflecting today on, it's like it almost took from November 2011 till January. It took almost 2 years before I even had enough, I don't know, whatever, maybe confidence, whatever, but to post the first video, and then I started to adjunct teach with a community college. And while I was doing that, I did about 80 videos. My agreement with the university was that I would teach, but I didn't want to use a textbook. He was going to allow me to create a new community college course. So I did that. And that was my something different. And ultimately, I've been paid at least 10x what the university paid as an adjunct professor for just the videos being on YouTube. But it was time for money still, but I wanted to transition to actually, I have 25,000 subscribers, but like an actual course that is independent from some, and I kind of prayed over it. And I had this whole, vision of how I just did not want to have just another course. I struggled. I never had a mentor in this field. And I've been blessed to be able to have a firm and get to almost 10 years in business for myself. And it was tough to learn the software. So my course is actually the time I taught at the school, and what's on my YouTube channel, they're videos of learning the particular program. And I wanted to kind of take a project or two and really mentor through a project like students, and I just haven't, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's like you just kind of listen, and I'm like, Guy, where my family is right now. I really need to do something different.
Well, let me reflect to you back what I heard, Jonathan. I heard that your world changed 4 years ago with the passing of your father, who was very involved in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that there's something about the phrase that stood out to you that, if you haven't done something before, you're going to have to do something different, or whatever that is. I also hear that you've been influenced by somebody's, quote out there about, if you can't make money while you sleep, you basically are going to work for the rest of your life. And I hear that you've had some success in your own architecture firm. You've been creating content, and you're like, okay, I'm doing a lot of things. Trading dollars for hours is what they call it. And I feel that I really ought to be figuring out this making money that doesn't require me to exchange dollars for hours. And one of the things that occurs to me is I'd like to create a course, but not just any course. So that is a reflection over all of what I heard. First of all, how accurate is what I said? Did I pick up what you were laying down? And did I miss any key element?
It's very, very accurate. I'd say I have 4 children, and my youngest one is my motivation. She had to have open heart surgery last year, and you just want to spend time differently. So there's some things. So I don't want that to be the focus of my talk. So, but there's definitely, when you ask the questions, like you talk about coaching, there's other things going on, but this would not trading as many of my hours, having more hours reserved for family would be where I want to be right now.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you right now that I have heard a lot of those influences out there that talk about trading dollars for hours and how bad that is. And quite frankly, I have, over seasons of my life, been influenced to feel more guilt and shame about the fact that my life isn't in alignment with, let's just say, a rich dad, poor dad, Robert Kiyosaki thing, or the Michael E. Gerber E-Myth thing. And I think today the more modern day version of it is the entrepreneur operating system or whatever. All of these things that says if you don't have a business that operates without you, you're not an entrepreneur, you're just self-employed. As if the idea of being self-employed is a bad thing. One of the quotes that sits with me, I'm going to pull it up here and see if I can't find this quote. Let's see here. I'm going to do a search for Command K and then work play. This is how I think about work. This is from James A. Meichner, I think is his name. The master in the art of living makes little distinction between his work and his play, his labor and his leisure, his mind and his body, his education and his recreation. He hardly knows which is which. He simply pursues his vision of excellence at whatever he does, leaving others to decide whether or not he is working or playing. To him, he is always doing both. Now that flies completely against the idea that I need to have some sort of unlimited wealth building machine that is generating income so that I never have to go and do any work in exchange for income. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there could be a ton of value in having sources of income and assets that are producing all this other stuff. And there are many people who pursue that. And quite frankly, they have, some of them do it. They are independently wealthy. They own all of this stuff. And there are some of those people who have lots of peace, lots of joy, lots of a feeling of abundance and fulfillment. And then there are some of those people who feel overwhelmed and stressed out by that model. But I also know people who have basically struggled to make that desired outcome a reality as far as financially, this thing that produces money while you sleep and you don't have to work and all this other stuff. And I've seen people who, in the pursuit of that, work themselves to a place where they're no longer experiencing the same amount of health that they once did and all this other stuff, only to get to the place where, quite frankly, they feel like, man, they're starting over from scratch and they've had some major losses along the way. And now they have nothing that's producing income and they feel like they're way behind and they're massively in debt. I know many people who fit that category and they've been in online business 15, 20 years. Okay. The same percentage, there are people who are in that second category in hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt who every day live a life of peace, love, joy, a feeling of and sense of abundance, and also fulfillment in life. And there are some in those situations that are overwhelmed and stressed or whatever. And what I'm getting at is, from my perspective of all of the life that I've lived, is that neither one of those two scenarios, whether you have a business where you show up and you work and that's how you get your income, and if you don't work, then you basically over time your income starts slowing down. Or if you're one of those people that, quite frankly, you don't have to show up ever again and money just spits out of the ATM machine for you like crazy. Neither of those scenarios gives one peace, joy, love, a sense of fulfillment and abundance. And so I would just, I think the one thing that I would just say is from hearing the fact that you brought that in, if you can't make money while you sleep, you're just going to be working every day for the rest of your life. For me personally, I'm one of those guys who, quite frankly, as long as I'm healthy enough to sit behind a desk or sit up and talk to somebody, let's just say I was 119 years old and I was still healthy enough to do what I'm doing today, I'd be sitting right here having this conversation with you at 119. And it doesn't matter to me what's going on. The other couple other things that have occurred to me, I've been around the world and seen enough other places. Quite frankly, there's very little that's required in life for us. I mean, some shelter to protect us from the environment, and some food and all this other stuff. So we get so caught up in all of the other things that we think we need to have. And I think some of that can be driving a lot of this, pressure to succeed in certain avenues in business. And as long as you know what it is that's driving that, and it's not fear of what you're missing out of, I think that's the important thing. The one thing I will say when it comes to a course is, when somebody is pursuing a course, my recommendation is, if you only have a small audience of people who are actively engaged in buying everything that you produce, and it's not a very large number of people who are actively engaged in buying everything that you produce, my recommendation is to start mentoring people and coaching people one-on-one, making sure you actually know what their needs are, what people are willing to pay for. Make yourself available for a couple of hours a week or a month doing that thing. And when those time slots that you've allowed for it are filled up with the same problem over and over and over again, and the request to sign up to work with you one-on-one or in your very small group environments is so overwhelming that there's a major waiting list, and a recorded course could answer and alleviate their struggle, their pain, their whatever they're dealing with, that's when a course makes sense. So those are just randomly things that I felt led to share with you based upon what I heard from you. Was any of that helpful?
That is, actually, that would be a different. I've been kind of recommended to do a pre-sell based on the audience being there, and they've asked for a course, but I just hadn't. Like I said, I was not at a place that I was able to do what I had in my mind as far as the course, because I wanted it to be based on, like, I general contract the buildings and like the homes that I build. So I wanted to actually base, kind of video, complete. It's not just how to do a model. It's like, I built that home this year, and walk them through it from the first design idea to I actually turn it over.
When you say they've asked for a course, they seems to indicate plural. How many people have actually asked you to create a course?
Probably, I don't know, 50 of them.
Okay.
50.
So if you've got 50 people who've asked you to create a course, and did they all ask you to create the same course?
No, they were going off of the content that was on the channel, and no, they didn't. That's where I'm wondering if I need to do similar. So that's would be another reason to the calls, like just having an open Zoom call with whoever will join to, like you said, to see what the
There is something valuable to be said for pre-selling a course, and it depends on you in what your level of integrity is and how you define your integrity as to how to go about that. But I've been known to go out and say, you know what, I'm looking to launch this thing on this date, and if I get at least X number of people who are interested, then I will proceed with it on this date. Kind of like a Kickstarter. I really like the Kickstarter model. The idea is that here's the thing, if you're interested, you're fully committing by paying the actual price of the product. All right. But the thing is that while that charge is made, you will get a 100% refund if I don't reach the goal, the target number of people. So let's just say I want to do a live event, and I'm hoping to get 150 people to attend this live event. Anything less than 150, it's just not going to be profitable, and it actually will cause me to, it'll be such a distraction, and it's just, I need 150 people minimum. And so if I were to do that, and all of a sudden 135 people prepaid for that, knowing that it needed to get to 150, if by let's just say a couple of weeks before the event, it didn't happen, I didn't get to the 150, everybody would be refunded their full ticket price. That you could do something like that with a course. And that way you're not out anything. You're not spending all of this time, effort, and energy away from your family developing something that hasn't been proven that it's a validated product that actually meets a need that people are willing to pay for.
Okay.
Now, what I will share with you is there are a number of people out there who go and do that exact model, but they don't tell people that there's a minimum number, and then they make some sort of excuse and then refund and all this other stuff. That's completely up to you on how you handle those scenarios, but I really do think the Kickstarter model for something like that could be valuable. But my thing is definitely, I've been around this online business long enough to tell anybody who says, I think I want to create a course, I would not recommend that you create a course until you've got a number of people who are asking you for the specific course that you have in mind, and that you're absolutely convinced that these people are willing to pay for it. And my courses that I've ever done that I've had success with, I've had people who paid me one-on-one for my coaching to help them with fill in the blank thing. Back in the day it was podcasting, but since then it's been a number of other different areas and topics. And once I've had enough people pay me for it one-on-one, and I keep talking about the success that people are having, I share the success stories, then what'll happen is I actually go through and will tell those stories in public content, and more people are like, oh my gosh, that sounds just like me. I want that. And if you're getting that on a consistent, ongoing basis, then that's when it makes a lot of sense to do a course. So Jonathan popped out for just a second. He just now came back up. So Jonathan, I think you missed the very end there. But what I was saying is that if people are, consistently hiring you or paying you to do this one-on-one or in a small group setting, then you've validated that people will buy it. And then it's like, from that point forward, what I would say is, hey, if I had a course available for this price versus hiring me one-on-one, would you be interested in the course? And then if somebody said yes, I'm like, great, I'm going to create that course, and I'm going to see if I can't get a handful of other people who have expressed interest in one-on-one if they'd like to go through a group program of the course, and then I turn it on some sort of evergreen thing. So you can do whatever you want, but hopefully these are ideas that help you along your way.
It is. It's very helpful.
Sweet. Jonathan, thank you for coming onto the Zoom call today, even to just chill out. And I'm very thankful that you had raised your hand and I had the opportunity to connect with you. And I'm thrilled to hear how valuable your experience in my podcasting A to Z course was years ago.
Thank you.
All right. Blessings.
Yes, you too.
All right. Bye. All right, so Alex is up next. If anybody else wants to join real quickly, I just want to let you know, head over to cliffravenscraft.com/join. You can pop into our live Zoom call here. And if anybody's on the Zoom call and you'd like to join me up here on stage, if you will, and ask me anything, feel free to raise your hand in Zoom. So there should be a little thing there where it says react. You click on that and hit raise hand. Alex, how are you?
I'm well. Hello, Cliff.
How are you? You're well. I'm doing great, Alex. How can I be of service to you today?
Excellent. This will be quick because I got to hop off in 10 minutes to prepare for a meeting. But I'm basically been coaching for the last 5 years. Last 2 years, I've had a couple corporate clients. I'm interested in getting more corporate clients in the leadership space. So I'm an engineering professor. The thing that I'm really passionate about is coaching engineers that have moved into management and maybe they're struggling with the personnel side of things. They can solve the math problems, but it's the other stuff that's kind of getting in the way. So that's the space that I'm working in. I've connected with clients by talking to vice president level folks who have the budget authority, and then I end up working with somebody on their team. My technical sort of network, professional network, is the engineers, the researchers, the scientists. I don't swim with the VPs and the executives. So I'm curious about ideas that you might have about how I can get to this population of folks. I'm really interested in having conversations which can, allow us to explore maybe issues that they have within their performance of their team, turnover, lack of innovation, missed deadlines, cost overruns and budgets, all of the things where at the core, it's kind of a personnel issue. It's a collaboration issue among the engineers that like to work alone.
Yeah. So the first thing that occurs to me as I hear that is you mentioned that your own personal network is the engineers themselves, the people you most want to serve within these organizations. What I'm going to recommend is that you drastically work towards intentionally adding to your network, your professional network, not necessarily the decision makers, but other people who are already operating in the corporate training environment at the level for which you desire to operate successfully. What that means is not necessarily, they don't all have to be people who are training specifically engineers on the human element side of things like you. Although if you had 2 or 3 people who were paid very well to do corporate training specifically exactly like you do, I would make it a goal to have at least 2 or 3 people who make most of their income specifically from only training in corporate settings. I'd like to add 2 to 3 of those people to my network, but I'd like to expand my total network in this area to 10 minimum. That means 10 people that I could text and say, hey, do you have 30 minutes I could ask you a question today? That's the kind of relationship you want with 10 different individuals. So we've already said 2 to 3 that might be exactly the type of training that you do. But then the other 7 to 8 of those individuals, all of them speak to different layers of training within corporate environments. Some of them aren't engineers. Some of them are other topics, they're leaderships or whatever. But the thing is they are all actively engaged. And the idea is that all 10 people in this expanded network that you're intentionally creating, all of them make a majority of their income by only training in corporate settings. And they're and ideally these are people who have been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years. So my question for you is, how many people do you already have that come to mind that you could add to that network?
So nobody immediately comes to mind. The folks that I know are,
Yep,
came out of the engineering space.
absolutely, and that's perfectly fine. And so the great news is whether or not this occurred to you before this conversation or not, you could leave this conversation and make it your goal that within the next 90 days, I will research and find people who meet that criteria. And I will develop a relationship with them. I will build rapport. I will build trust. I will look to serve them as much as I would ever have any of them serve me. I am intentional about building relationships with this type of person. Now, one of the things you could do is you could reach out and to all of the people you know in your engineering space and say, hey, do you know anybody else that comes into your corporation where you work and does any type of training, any corporate trainers who come in and do week-long workshops or weekend workshops or multi-day workshops or whatever. Ask them to connect you with people who are already there showing up in their businesses. And not to mention the fact that you could probably find some keywords that describe these individuals. LinkedIn is a great place to go and find out who these people are. And I would especially look out for people who meet all of this criteria, but they're also influencers, meaning that they've authored books and or have a podcast and or lead online communities related to the topic for which they are known, but where most of their income comes from actually the corporate training that they do. Now, the reason why I say focus on those people is because those people are the most likely to be acceptable to having you interview them on your podcast, which could be that opening rapport, relationship building kind of thing that you could bring to the table. So what are your thoughts on that?
I like it. not a strategy that I had considered. So that sounds exciting for me. I'll do
So
some research on that.
So the strategy here, it's actually called role modeling, ROLE.
Mhm.
And when I used to bring up role modeling, I used to just announce it. What I'm talking about now is role modeling. And people are like, "Ah, I don't know anybody role models because I don't know anybody who has all of the characteristics and traits that I would want to mimic in my life." It's important for you to understand that as you build this network, it's not important that you meet the perfect human who meets all of your values. Does that make
Sure.
sense?
Yeah.
Because you could find somebody who in certain areas their values are so opposed to your own values that you wouldn't want to hang out and spend the weekend with them, right? You don't want a family vacation together with their family and your family, but that
Mhm.
doesn't disqualify them from being a role model in this one specific area where, quite frankly, all you're looking to do is like, hey, you are already every week, every month earning all of this income from corporate training work, which is what I want to do. And you've been doing it for a decade or more.
Mhm.
What can I learn from you? And I can tell you right now, they will have forgotten more about what works in that industry than you have already learned. And that's if I were in your shoes, that's exactly where I'd be going.
Excellent.
Sweet. Alex, thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Cliff.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. Many blessings. All right. Let's close that down, that window. We've got just a few minutes left. If anyone else would like to join me, I saw Dallas, you had your hand raised a little bit ago, and then I saw the hand go down. So did you want to come up? And you just give me a thumbs up if you want. Okay, so thumbs up is yes. So I'll have you unmute yourself. And Dallas, how can I be of service to you today?
Start out by finding out if you have a memory.
I do have a memory. I remember you and I meeting at 48 Days Sanctuary in Franklin, Tennessee.
Yes. And you told me that listening was not a popular topic. And because it was so hard to have people convinced that listening was a skill set that needed attention.
Really?
And that, yes, I was talking about a radio program in terms of focusing on listening and the like. And we were in the kitchen of the sanctuary when I had that conversation. It's like, this dude would never believe that I continue to have a passion about listening. I'm in my 90th year of life now.
Nice.
I've already had my 89th birthday. And really, listening is such an unknown skill set. So if I ask people on the front end, I'm curious, who taught you to listen in your life?
Are
And
you
it's
asking
really
me
an
that, or you're telling me the story?
I'll let you deal with the silence, but that's part of the problem I have is quit over talking and giving folks an opportunity to think out loud and recognize all we did is we more caught than taught. We more caught how to listen from our environment than we were ever taught to really focus and give folks the gift of listening. So one of my passages from scripture, and by the way, you notice I've got a filter on and I've got an empty chair. So I don't know who of the team is on call today, but one of the three is available. So when I get tough questions that people ask me, I'm saying, that's a great question. And by that time, I will have determined whether they believe God is still in business or not. And I'm saying, do you mind if we check with the boss, whoever's on call? So let's just take a pause here and think about, what do you think would be his response to us at this point with this question? It's really requiring me to talk less and listen more. And I'm finding out as a coach, when I can actually ask the kinds of questions that people begin to think out loud with me, and learn from themselves the wisdom they have, and then bring in the fact that we have a source that is unlimited. And if there was ever a time we could have listening have an impact in our world and in our culture today, it sure is totally absent. And so I have a passion about that. And so I'm doing research again. We wrote our first book in 2003, and Gary Smalley promoted us to get that book published when Can You Hear Me Now? And it's still out, hanging out there. But I think listening is simple. It's really simple. It's just not easy. And I think that I'm wanting to test the idea that 2 or 3 people are the way to you really enhance your listening skills, is you begin to think out loud with and hear your own thinking and hearing all your own objections, so that you can actually recognize most of us are not friends to ourselves. And we sure find it difficult to believe that we're friends of God and his son, Jesus. So those are some just real simple things. Young guys like you, I've thought of contacting you because there's a lot of guys that you've served that I've also had the opportunity, starting with Dan, way back and doing his whatever his fast, rapid 1 hour kind of encounter in 2014. And he made me aware that I didn't have a practice. I didn't have a business. I had a practice because I had not really created, and I still have not created, others that are actively building the business. And so here I am at 90 and saying, I've got a lot that I'd like to be the green room guy, as I have been in many settings, where I'd rather be in the green room and build the relationships rather than attempt to be on platforms anymore. Because I think when we have, and all of us need green room guys if we don't need partners. And I'm looking again to how to whatever I've accumulated, and I was licensed as a pastor in 1958. That's 67 years ago. And I was credentialed with 4 college degrees after that and have a PhD in psychology. But I almost deny that so that people don't get intimidated by all this education I have. But it's so simple. Lead with your ears, follow with your tongue, let anger straggle behind. James 1:19, be quick to listen, be slow to speak. And there's a proverb that's answering before listening is both stupid and rude. That's a Message translation. Answering before listening is both stupid and rude. So when I can engage in a conversation and ask the kinds of questions I'm prompted by what they have come to me about. So what's on your mind is one of my openers. It's not a newbie. So what's really on your mind? Just imagine how many interesting conversations we could have when we just began to connect with that curiosity. And so there's a guy named Jamie Winship that's influenced me. An awful lot of you haven't heard about Jamie. It's really impressed me. But again, we lead with our ears, follow with our tongue. And that was the mantra that Dan Miller said, Dallas, you really need to promote that. Lead with your ears is the way to impact people. So I know we're running over time here, and but I held back, but I really wanted to reconnect with you after 2016 is when we first met, and Ray Edwards was there, Brian Dixon was there. These are all guys that I've invested time in, and it was others that you and I remember from back in 2016. So anyway, I just am so grateful to see what and hear and follow your journey, long distance. I was born and raised up the road from you on a farm in Ohio. Mm-hmm. So my family farm is still operating in the Demet family. That's how unusual, and that's how deep my roots are. But anyway, I was either going to be a preacher, teacher, or a farmer. And I've actually been all 3 in the sense that farming is really producing with patience whatever you have access to create. And it takes the divine benefits of God's participation to give blessing. And I've been so blessed, even though I've had some medical challenges and whatever. I walked my 2 miles this morning in under 55 minutes. And this is after having had some other learning experiences. But anyway, I'm done rattling, over talking. I could say, what if anything that I've rattled about is worthy of your capturing for me, is my question to you.
So the first thing that occurs to me is I don't recall the conversation specifically related to listening back then, but I can say that I have had a incredible amount of appreciation for the art and skill of listening since that time we've met. And it's one of the things that I can really thank Dan Miller for. There's something that I experienced in Dan Miller's presence that I rarely experience in many other people. It's not that there aren't any. It's a very rare thing. But one of the things that I experienced in Dan Miller's presence is that whenever I had a conversation with him, it felt as though I was the only thing that existed in his world. And the amount of care that he gave to not only hearing what I'm saying, which is listening with the ears, but also the amount of care that he gave to listening to what's not being said. And I really do appreciate the art and skill of listening. So while I may have been not a whole lot younger, but still,
okay.
but I certainly have grown in one area, and that is to understand the value of listening and not preparing what I'm going to say next. So I really appreciate that. It is something that I have learned to increase my skill to listening, and it's something that, quite frankly, I'm honored to say that is one of the things that people say what I most love about having a conversation with you, Cliff, is how much you listen.
But Joanne was my best student. And she was the one that was always promoting the book whenever I'd show up. And so Joanne, she actually asked us to contribute to her first book. So my wife and I, there's a few pages in there about Dallas Demuth, this guy that was rather bold and whatever else. But so anyway, I'm grateful. And there's other times I've thought of you. Now, I'd like to maintain some contact with you, Cliff, because I want to pour into you whatever I can give, because I'm now doing bartering relationships.
Gotcha.
Because I find it interesting to be able to learn with people. And I have been a solopreneur all of my life. And that's not a good thing. But I have an awful lot of boys and girls and ladies who've actually are my legacy. And I'm going to add you to my list.
Well, I'll be on the lookout for you, Dallas. I appreciate you joining me here live today and participating and sharing your wisdom about listening. I'm going to go over to Bez next. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Well, I've been more blessed than I deserve, but God loves me. And one of my lines that I end up reminding myself of, I think from the time I was born, my mother did hum or sing, "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so." And I've never lost track of that all of my days of my life. But that's still my theme song. It'll be in my memorial service. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. And I'm really getting back to really emphasizing God wants to be a player in our lives, everybody's life, whether they accept or not. And being respectful and give high regards for folks who have a different opinion, just because they are creation of God. And he made them in likeness, but they have a choice and I have a choice. So I really am not shy about it, but I'm also respectful. And I've had a lot of opportunities where I celebrate. God owes me nothing. And at 90, coming into the 90th year, I got a lot to be grateful for. And one of the guys that I know is Dale Smith, that you know Dale from way back, and he and I have maintained contact for a lot of years. I haven't talked to him real recently, but he's older than me, so he's my older brother. So
well, Dallas,
it
is a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'm sure we'll be in touch again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. All right, Bez, I'm going to bring you up here. If anybody else wants to join, feel free to raise your hand here on what is this called, Zoom? And I'm looking for Bez on my thing. Bez, I see you on Zoom, but I don't see you here
I'm on Zoom.
I know I see you on Zoom, but I don't see you in my little window to bring you up on screen.
I'm right here.
Yeah, I see you. I see you there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just added you. Okay, nope, that's not it. I got you. There we
No.
go.
Oh, okay.
Look,
I see.
there we go.
Oh, you're
Bez.
getting fancy.
Oh my goodness, it has been too long. I'm trying to recreate my Clubhouse days.
I see.
So I'm streaming live on LinkedIn. How did you discover that? Did you go through email or did you see me on social?
Facebook.
Okay, great.
Happened to be just scrolling. You were like there since you were live. So I was like, oh, but I was doing a lot today. So I was like, I hope I can get in before he closes at 5. So I hopped in, saw you were here, and last night I was trying to clean down my downloads, and I found back in 22 you and I talked, and you had a coaching session with me, and I found that recording. You had sent it to me.
Nice.
So I was like, and I've been watching all these things, following you, and just appreciating some of the things. So, yeah, man, just I know you made a pivot recently, so I haven't talked to you since that pivot, but I think I know from some of the things I'm seeing what you're doing. But just my hats off to you, man.
I'm curious. I'd love to hear from your perspective what you think I'm doing from an outside perspective.
From what I can tell, you've gone back to your roots of ministry, which, if I remember part of your story, you were actually in that before, as part of your journey in your early days. So, am I correct on that?
One could see it through that lens. Yes.
Okay.
For me personally, I would say that I've never left doing ministry, that everything I've been doing since I left my insurance career has been fully involved in my ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what I have done more recently is taken off all of the filters of, I feel like I need to bring it to the market. I have to have, in the early days, it was, what you're paying me for is to teach you how to podcast, but I get to still speak into your life because there's a lot of you and I can chat about. And then when I shut all that down in November 2017, for the last 7 years, it's been focused mostly around, I will help you with your business strategy and and I called it mindset. But in reality, what it's always been is it's been like, let's really talk about who you are at the core level, finding out how can we unleash who you truly are, who you're meant to be in this world. And sure, I happen to have a lot of experience in business. I not only my own, but witnessing the lives of other very successful business owners very closely. And so I have a lot of strategy talk we can have. But today, what's happened most recently is I'm like, you know what? I'm looking for somebody who is ready to get below the surface level of the technology stuff, the strategy stuff, and all of the outside fluff. And let's go to the core level of, who am I? Let's find the answer to that question. Who am I? Why am I here? What drives me? What makes my soul sing in this world? And if I didn't care at all about what anybody else thought about me or what they thought I should do, what would I do in this world? And let's find a way to live in alignment with who you truly are, not who you feel like you ought to be based upon somebody else's expectations. And yes, today, I now only choose to work with those people.
Wow, that's fascinating. That resonates with me. Recently, I started career coaching. I've been sort of doing it, but just with, out of the goodness of my heart. But I started preparing to sell it, to launch it as another stream of income. And in November of 2024, someone came to me and said, "You're going to be my career coach." And I was like, okay. And I happened to be ready for it. But what that question you mentioned is one that a lot of people can't answer. Like, who am I? And who do I want to be when I grow up? And it's very core and fundamental because it guides everything else. And a lot of people cannot answer that question. And therefore, it affects, because I have a framework, and my frameworks have a through line, and they sort of, one goes off the other. But if you can't answer a fundamental question of who you are, which is a discovery, a journey in your and guiding people in that discovery, and then the next question is, who do you want to be? And then there's a whole bunch of other questions there, like as you sort of outlined. It's really hard to talk about the rest of things, and I'm talking more specifically careers, but yeah, it's you'd be surprised how lost people are in that simple questions, and they think their life is over at 40. And I'm like, no. My mom did a career change at the age of 59, and she worked until she retired at the age of 82, and she's still consulting part-time. Her headhunters, she calls them her agents, and she's 88. She does it part-time now, but it's, she found second gear. So life ain't over till you say it's over.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Well, that's awesome. Bez, is there anything I can do to support or encourage you today?
Well, today is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
So I'm feeling pretty happy. So, I tell people, well, today I got a ticket for speeding for 1 mile over the speed limit because I can't drive 55. So that's a riddle.
It's a riddle?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's around my birthday. So if I can't drive 59 and I got a ticket for speeding 1 mile past the speeding limit, then how old am I?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
All right. Well, I'm always inspired when I see your content, your things that you put out there, and anytime we have conversations. I remember in 2017, I've been consuming your YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, that's the guy I want to work with. And then you got on a Facebook Live and you were telling everybody you were going to quit that. And I was like, oh my goodness, I missed it. And then little did I know that I would run into you on Clubhouse. And when I did, I was a fanboy. And I was like, oh my goodness, I get to talk to Cliff Ravenscraft. And then this relationship started, and I really appreciate the things you put out there. I know I've been busy in a lot of other in my own journey, but I do watch you from afar. I do appreciate and consume the stuff. And when I can, I say hi. And then when you made that switch, and I put in the comments, what you're doing is resonating with me. It did, based on the season I'm going through. Yeah. And so, yeah, it was nice to hear that you made a pivot for whatever your reason was, and sort of a similar journey on a little bit more about the community that I serve, as it relates to, my ethnicity in the Latino community. So it's a little bit interesting times, and I take that responsibility for those that their voices aren't being heard. So I will fight the good fight on that.
Nice. Well, Bez, I so appreciate you, and you reminded me. Matter of fact, the Clubhouse experiences, the things that you are a part of back in that era of the journey. I was telling Stephanie, I'm like, I really miss Clubhouse. I don't miss the platform. I miss being able to just be out there streaming, and then people would just come across some environment that I'm hosting, and people would pop in and have a conversation. And some of those conversations are just a little chit chat, a little catch up. And as you've seen in the past, some of those conversations go incredibly deep. And I have no agenda. I have no expectations. I'm just present in the moment, just wherever the spirit leads. And so I told Stephanie this morning when we were walking, I'm like, you know what? I want to create that environment again. And today was the day. So You're officially a part of my very first non-Clubhouse live stream. Ask Me Anything. How may I help you? Piece of content. And I have, now that I actually have figured this out, I've got the rest of this week until I go on a 2-week vacation. And hopefully once I come back from vacation, I'll fire it back up again.
Well, you have helped me in many ways into ask the deeper question. And because I'm on that journey to continuously ask a better question. But when you turn it on yourself, it's different, right? And so you've challenged me in those ways, whether you think so or not. And I talk about you quite a bit. People were talking about shows and podcasts, and I talk about how you started with that series called Lost. And people say, oh, yeah, I remember that series, and how people used to talk about around the water cooler with that, and how you and Stephanie started a podcast around that, and you got a huge bill. Your host, you sort of blew up because a TV station mentioned you or something.
Yeah. Entertainment Weekly. It was a wild deal dealing with the invoice for our hosting account. That was for sure.
So, but now I appreciate you, Cliff. I just wanted to stop by, and you've helped me in many ways, whether you think so or not. But you're a good person, and keep on doing the good stuff you do because it matters.
Thank you, Bez. Well, reach out to me anytime. It's an honor to reconnect with you, and I appreciate you too. And have a blessed and wonderful rest of your week. Thank you for stopping by.
You too, sir.
All right, folks, that is going to wrap it up. We went about 21 minutes over, but man, has it been a fun time validating that I can actually just show up with no topic that I want to talk about. I'm not here to teach. I'm not here to share. I'm definitely not here to promote or market anything. I just wanted to create a space where I could be present with anyone to talk about anything, and more of this to come. So if you followed me, if you came in today because of this live stream happening on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, if you head over to cliffravenscraft.com, on my main website, there's a place where you can sign up for my email list. That's where I would notify you ahead of time. Of course, those who got notified ahead of time, it was about a 2-hour notice. But still, several people came in from the email newsletter today. And I wouldn't be surprised if I did this a couple more times this week. So I've got a few more open slots in my schedule the next few afternoons, and then I'm going on a 2-week vacation. And if you want to join me, I encourage you to do so. Many blessings, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.